What is up, True Crime World? You're here with Luminal on the Wall, and I'm Becky.
And I'm Bevy. And today's case is about a custody battle where one parent will stop at nothing to be able to see their child, and the other one will do everything they can to try and sabotage it. This is the case of Stephen Moore. Listeners' discretion is advised.
Hello. Hey, Bev.
Hey, Beck.
So before you start telling the story, which is abnormal, I got a couple things to say.
Okay, let's hear it.
Number one, as I just said, you are reading the story today.
Yes, I am.
And I can't wait to hear all about it.
Woo!
Number two, if you haven't yet, go follow us on Instagram. We're at Luminal on the Wall. See what we're posting, see what we're all about, and feel free to message us if you like what you're seeing or if you want to chat with us. Number three, me and Bev, we both work full-time. And
Don't we ever?
we love podcasting.
Hell yeah, we do.
And we have had many a late hour working on this shit.
Haven't we, though? Oh.
Tears were cried. Sweat was poured. Maybe some arguments were had. I don't know. But if you like what we're doing and you want to support us, feel free to go to our Instagram bio. And we have a link for buying us a coffee. We need all the caffeine that we can get for these long, sleepless nights. But anyways, Bev, I want to hear your story. Let's get into it.
Okay, let's do it. Okay, so Kathleen Dorsett was a kindergarten teacher at the Gable School in Neptown Township, New Jersey. She absolutely loved her job. She was known to be mature and responsible, and she actually lived in a home across the street from her parents, Leslie and Thomas, who still resided in Kathleen's childhood neighborhood, but she was actually just longing for a family of her own. And in 2006, she met Stephen Moore, who was from California. He was the total opposite of Kathleen. He loved speed skating, and he was actually the winner of the bronze medal in the National Championship of Speed Skating. However, as an adult, although Stephen worked really hard, he never really had a career and often lived paycheck to paycheck. And in his 30s, Stephen wasn't really career-driven. He was an adventurer by heart. His mother, Evelyn, was actually a travel agent, and so together they traveled the world, and they were really close and had the most amazing experiences traveling together. And when Evelyn decided to retire, she decided to move to the Jersey Shore, and she wanted her son to come with her. The pair lived there for a couple of years, and while they were there, Stephen just did his own thing, finding jobs, meeting new people, when in 2006, he met a woman, Kathleen Dorsett. They began dating right away, and the relationship became rather serious pretty quickly. After dating Kathleen for a while, Stephen decided that he wanted to progress his life and start taking things a bit more serious. So he got a job at the local Honda dealership. And it turns out that this job seemed to be his calling. He was really good at it. His coworkers thought of him as a team player, and if they ever needed help, he was the guy that they would go to. About a year after the couple met, they decided that, they're not getting any younger, and they wanted to get married and start a family. And they were both incredibly happy to do so. And it wasn't long after they got married, about a year and a half, that they had their first and only daughter, named Elizabeth. Kathleen was ecstatic about this.
Yeah, no kidding.
She always wanted to have children, and she was a fabulous and natural mother. It came easy to her. What was shocking, though, is that Stephen took one look at that little girl and knew what he was living for. He was an amazing father and had so much love for his daughter.
Aw, that's so cute. That always happens to the fathers and daughters. It's like she had me wrapped around her little finger right out the gate.
Yeah, I just think of Dad.
Yeah, me too.
He just loves us.
He loves us.
He loves us so much.
Our father loves us.
Oh, God. We're so lucky. So I believe that Elizabeth is lucky to have a dad who loves her so much.
Yes, she is.
Because it really does make all the difference, right?
No, it totally does.
Unfortunately, it wasn't that long until the happy couple started seeing cracks in their marriage.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so now we're actually going to take a break from the backstory and kind of jump forward to August 16th of 2010. So this is 4 years after the couple met each other. And Stephen doesn't show up for work.
Oh, God. Every time.
Every damn time.
Thank God for jobs for this reason.
I know. I will never cease to say it. Thank God for jobs and people not showing up. No, it's just a good indicator of like when people's normal patterns change.
Yeah, like something's gone awry.
Exactly. So yeah, just like so many of our other cases, we know this is a red flag.
Mm-hmm.
Stephen's coworkers are really worried about him. They call Kathleen and she says that she hadn't actually talked to him since earlier that morning. And so they call his mother, who was actually vacationing in Maine, because they thought that maybe he just up and left with her.
That makes sense. They're close. They've traveled so much together.
Exactly. However, his mom has no idea where he is.
Uh-oh.
And she starts panicking.
Yeah.
She's obviously concerned. And around noon that same day, she and his coworkers decide to call the police and report him as missing. Initially, what the police learned is that Stephen had lent his mother his more reliable car to travel to Maine. So he was driving his mom's older and a bit more kind of run down car.
Oh.
So their initial thought was maybe he broke down somewhere on the road,
That
or
makes sense.
something went wrong with the car.
Yeah.
The police thought that it was pretty unlikely that his car broke down or something went wrong with the vehicle and that he wouldn't have called somebody.
Yeah, that would be abnormal, I'm sure.
Yeah, like if you're in trouble, like we all have cell phones.
What's the number for 911?
It's 911. Exactly. Except for some places, I don't know. It's not
999.
999. Exactly.
It's no good.
Either way, he didn't call anybody. So the police start looking into his family dynamics and history to see if anyone else might have known something or given any indication as to where he might be.
Yeah.
Or if there was something in Stephen's life that was a cause for concern. Like, did he have any enemies?
Did he have any illnesses?
Yeah.
Anything like that, right?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So what they found out was that Stephen actually did not live with his wife Kathleen anymore.
Oh.
And they also found out that their relationship had gone downhill after the baby was born. Apparently, Kathleen was the perfect mother. And although she took wonderful care of her daughter, it's like she just didn't trust anyone else to take as good of care of Elizabeth as her, not even Stephen.
Ooh.
And he had confided in his friends and said that he felt that no matter what he did with the baby, it wasn't right. He couldn't feed her properly. He couldn't change her diaper properly. He didn't follow her bedtime routine properly. He just felt that nothing was good enough for Kathleen when it came to Elizabeth. So the police are seeing that there was this turmoil between the two parents and that, you know, Stephen just all around wasn't satisfied with the criticism and distrust that Kathleen was levying on him.
I mean, that's a pretty shitty way to live with so much criticism when you're a parent. Like, he's not neglectful. He's not causing the baby harm. Like, he's a first-time dad. He's proud. He's happy.
Yeah.
Like, come on, Kathleen. Like, tone it down a notch.
Tone it down, girl. And I totally get this whole criticize routine. I mean, it happens in so many couples' relationships. When I was in school, actually, we learned about the demand and withdraw cycle that happened in relationships, where it was often that one partner would overly criticize the other. And because of that, the other one would withdraw. And it causes this like stark divide in the relationship, where you have someone yearning for the other partner to do something, and the other one, instead of taking action, they just withdraw because they basically feel so shitty. And unfortunately, it's an unhealthy dynamic and not really conducive to like a good relationship.
I can assume not much growth happens in that stage.
Exactly. Totally.
Yeah.
You don't grow as a couple, right? You actually draw further and further apart.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of see that happening here.
At like a very fast pace.
At a very fast pace. I'm sure having a baby just like increases it tenfold.
For sure.
So on top of that, Kathleen really stopped showing her husband any kind of intimacy or really any kindness or love. And when Stephen had brought that up as a concern in their relationship, it didn't really matter.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
She didn't really acknowledge it. Nothing changed.
Oh, he probably just feels so like helpless.
Precisely, Becky. And to add an air of complication to their relationship, because they lived so close to Kathleen's family, her family was actually always popping up unannounced all the time.
Oh my God, it's a real Everybody Loves Raymond.
That is exactly what I was going for.
Really?
Exactly. And if her family was anything like Raymond's mother,
holy shit.
Watch out. You'd have to have a real strong relationship to get through that. I tell you.
Seriously. It's only funny because it's on TV.
Yeah.
In real life.
Yeah, it wouldn't be funny. It just wouldn't be funny.
No, it would not.
And of course, like Kathleen and her family are super close, and it just made Stephen feel smothered. And he felt that them coming over all the time was an invasion of their little family's privacy. Apparently, this whole dynamic that was going on would eventually come to a head. And when baby Elizabeth was only 10 months old, and Stephen was so overwhelmed with this dynamic that he moved back in with his mother.
Ooh.
This ultimately led to Stephen and Kathleen's separation.
Yeah, no kidding.
And then they divorced, and it became finalized just a few months before Stephen went missing.
Ooh, shit.
Well, exactly. Some juicy goss.
Yeah.
For the detectives. And with this information, they thought maybe it was completely possible that he needed to just get away a bit to clear his mind. However, what kind of put a hole in this theory was that the night before he went missing on August 15th, Stephen had actually spoken with his mother, and she said to the detectives that he seemed super excited and super happy with the way things were going, and was really excited to spend the whole evening with his now 20-month-old daughter, Elizabeth.
So maybe not trying to escape.
Yeah, exactly. Like, with all the drama going on, they thought maybe he just needed some time away, but he didn't actually seem too troubled by what was going on and actually seemed super happy. So that's pretty contradictory information right there. So they got to look into this a little bit further.
Yeah, I'm sure they're like, he's probably missing.
Yeah, I think something's gone awry here. So after spending the night with his daughter, Stephen had actually dropped Elizabeth off at 7:45 a.m. with Kathleen and was supposed to be on his way to work.
Okay, sounds like a normal morning.
Exactly. Yeah. Except for the fact that police noticed that in his bank account, there were actually 2 transactions posted that Monday afternoon at a local Quick Check for about $9, as well as a transaction at Chipotle in Eatontown where he worked. So after finding this information out, investigators kind of toggled with the idea that maybe he did go missing later in the afternoon of that day.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah, there's transactions that show he was kind of out and about doing stuff.
Yeah.
Later in that afternoon.
But weird that he didn't show up to work.
and then had a transaction at work. That doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't.
So fast forward to 2 days after the initial phone call to mention that he was missing, and Stephen is still missing.
Right.
And then a 911 call comes into dispatch just shortly after 4 a.m. Again, we're still talking about 2 days after he's gone missing. And the call said that there was a car fire in a desolate area in Long Branch, New Jersey. It was close by the Dorsett's neighborhood. And it turns out that this flaming car was that of Evelyn Moore's.
No, Bevy.
So Stephen's mother's car.
Oh my God.
And as we know, Stephen was driving his mother's car.
Right. Yes, he was.
So 911 is called and the fire truck comes and puts out the flames. And what they notice is that the back bumper has been completely melted off. And the investigators also noticed that there was a strong odor of gasoline coming from the car.
Uh-oh.
And what's more, Becky, is that they were able to determine that there was actually a burnt human in the trunk.
Oh, I think we know who that is.
Well, yeah. I mean, the writing's on the wall at this point. So,
yes.
Yeah. And so, unfortunately, the body is burnt beyond recognition, but the police were still able to tell that it was a male body. And they were also able to identify one tattoo.
What?
And that tattoo helped them identify the remains of Stephen Moore.
Oh, of course it did. Oh my God, how lucky to have done that with one tattoo.
I know.
That it
Who would have thought?
Just obliterated, right?
I know. The body's burnt beyond recognition, yet the tattoo.
One lone tattoo.
Answers the questions of a murder.
Murder. Homicide.
Of a homicide.
Oh.
Homicide solved by a tattoo.
Gotta love it.
And of course, as soon as they noticed this tattoo, they begin a homicide investigation because there is no body that just up and walks into a trunk and then is somehow able to pour gasoline on a car and light it up. Obviously,
what?
He was
really?
Placed there.
People can't do that?
Really? They can't
Not
just
on their own?
After being dead, just light a car on fire? Really?
What? I had no idea.
Wow. So,
this absolutely changes the course now of this investigation.
Oh, doesn't it though?
Yes.
Because at first we're like, okay, this young man is missing. And now we know he is dead.
Yes.
It's complete 180 here.
Mm-hmm.
And so the detectives have to start dabbling into Stephen's personal life. And they look into his speed skating history of all things.
Oh, his speed skating?
History.
I guess you never know.
Well, I know, right? It's weird, but they were looking for enemies.
Mm-hmm.
And just anything. To see if there was any relevant information to kind of indicate what the fuck happened to him.
Yeah, did he piss off a fellow athlete?
Yeah, did he knock someone over while they were round about a corner?
Yeah, or did he just whoop someone's ass so bad
that they just wanted to seek personal vengeance?
You never know.
Well, the answer is no. They found nothing.
We do know.
Yeah.
Nothing.
He also had no issues at work and, in fact, was actually doing really well. So the next place they looked into was his marriage with Kathleen, which we already know.
It's not good.
Not good. Full of drama. Baby mama drama, baby.
Save the drama for your mama.
Yep. And they look into their relationship and what it was like after their divorce. And what they learned is that some of the people in their lives had said that Kathleen had gone completely mad with motherhood. As we kind of mentioned earlier, she was very critical of Stephen. And they also mentioned that she was completely controlling over everything that related to her daughter. So it wasn't just with Stephen, it was with everyone. And although Stephen was Elizabeth's father, Kathleen would still try to control him, even when he was alone with his daughter, Becky.
Gross.
She would give Steven a schedule. And he would have to fill in the blanks when he was with her. Like, what did she do when she took a nap? When did she go to the bathroom? Like, all of that kind of stuff.
I like the small details that, like, Kathleen does not need to micromanage when she's not there.
Well, exactly. And to top it all off, it is said that Kathleen would call Steven incessantly when he had her. It didn't matter if he only had her for 3 hours or overnight. She would still call him over and over again.
I would, like, be so tempted to not answer that phone.
Oh, yeah.
Or I'd just be like, yeah, she's fine. I will call you if there's a problem. Do not call me one more time.
Yeah, it would be, it's overbearing. It's totally overbearing.
It's also like, if I was Steven, I would feel that one, she doesn't trust me, which maybe she doesn't, whatever, but that I'm not good enough. It probably takes a mental toll after a little while. Like, you can't do anything right. And even if your baby's totally fine in your care,
you'd be anxious and worried all the time over the littlest things.
I would for sure just keep my phone on silent.
I know. And unfortunately, Becky, like everything you've just said, we know that Steven felt.
Yeah.
His friends told the police as much.
Exactly, right?
Yeah, and so unfortunately, this terrible dynamic that had been going on between the two of them seemed to worm its way into Steven's work life, his friendships, and some of Steven's coworkers even said that Kathleen would bring the baby to see him and he would be holding her and, you know, showing the baby love and affection. And Kathleen would get mad at just the way he was holding her, what he was doing, you know, just really find any reason to get upset with him. And the coworkers felt that this was just a way for her to embarrass him in front of the people that he worked with.
Yeah, and I'm sure she 100% succeeded in that.
I bet she fucking did. What is interesting, though, Becky, is that the couple actually had easily gone through their divorce. However, what was really causing a lot of this conflict was their custody battle. It was said that Steven was constantly trying to get more time with his daughter, and he felt that it was an uphill battle, to say the least.
It definitely seems that way, actually.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of know the dynamic, and it seems to be rooted in a possessiveness around Elizabeth on Kathleen's end. So you could imagine going through a custody battle where she has to share her daughter with a man she clearly does not trust to do a good job with her is probably pretty hard.
I would not want to be a lawyer on either end.
Ditto.
Could you imagine being her lawyer, Bev?
Fuck no.
If I was them, I'd be like, this lady is so fucking demanding and I fucking hate her.
Yeah, it would
and
be
she's
hard.
Horrible. Could you imagine fighting for her and her nasty demands? You'd feel so bad for her ex.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Oh, but at the same time, the lawyer's probably like, I'm getting paid.
I'm making bank.
I'm making bank.
Making bank.
I mean, that's why they do it, right? The big bucks.
That's right.
I think so.
Money, money, money.
Money, money, money. Money. Anyways, yeah, it would be tough for the lawyers, for Steven, and in some aspect, it might have been tough for Kathleen.
From her perspective, I'm sure there was tough times.
Yeah.
But do I care? No.
All right. Okay. So I'll give you some insight into what Steven's divorce attorney thought. So she was quoted saying that she had never seen anyone quite like Kathleen. She noted that she was just so neurotic and mean.
Oh, that's never good.
Never good. And kind of sad that so many people in Steven's life are kind of making these comments without really knowing Kathleen. You know, it must be bad when like people that are just tangentially related to Steven are noticing this shit.
Yeah, most people can get away with like a nice innocent act around like strangers or people that are less known, but not her. They all know she's fucking terrible.
Amen. And she was. So initially, Stephen was pretty passive about this whole situation, and he tried to be very agreeable with what Kathleen wanted in regards to their custody battle. However, like a true fucking narcissist, she started taking advantage of his laid-back personality, and it eventually got so bad that she started making it really hard for Stephen to even see his daughter.
Aw.
And she would try to control every little aspect of their relationship.
You know what? It just sucks because despite everything Stephen and Kathleen have to go through and their families, the only person that really suffers is the child. Like, she doesn't get to see her dad. Like, that's so mean to do to her. Why? Because you're fucking selfish, Kathleen?
Yeah.
No other reason.
Exactly. I know it's very sad. And again, we kind of mentioned it earlier, but that daughter-father relationship, like, it doesn't matter how old the baby is. That little girl loves her dad.
Mm-hmm. And it is such a valuable relationship in a young girl's life.
Exactly. So Stephen had had enough at this point, and he went to his divorce attorney and started fighting back. He wanted fair time with his daughter, and he actually started making headway in his custody battle. And he was allowed to do overnight visits with his daughter, which ultimately made him very happy, but it pissed Kathleen off.
Oh, I'm sure it did.
Now, despite them going to court over this, Kathleen still made his life completely miserable. And eventually, he ran out of money. And he couldn't afford a lawyer anymore.
Oh, no.
So he was not able to keep up with Kathleen and her incessant wild behavior.
That must be absolutely frustrating.
I know. It's devastating, to be quite honest.
Yeah, like, what am I to do? I have no more moolah.
I know. I find that so sad.
Oh.
He's doing everything right, but still can't overcome what's going on.
Yeah.
So obviously, throughout their investigation, the police have surfaced all of this information. And on top of that, they actually found video diaries that Stephen had made saying that, you know, he's tired of her controlling every little thing with his daughter and kind of ranting about the fact that he was just as capable to take care of his daughter as she was, and that he just wants to be able to visit with his daughter.
Oh my God, they found videotapes?
Yeah, they found videotapes of Stephen just ranting. I mean, he's upset. You know, he needs to just vent. Get it off his chest. There's no way fucking Kathleen will hear him.
He has to do it in private.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I love when there's like video diaries of any kind in these cases that actually give some like details into their emotions, how they're feeling at that time. I love when investigators find this.
Yeah, me too.
Because it's like you got to take what they're saying. They're true to their word.
Yeah, exactly. Like you actually know that this is how they felt, as opposed to just like speculation.
Or like, my friend told me they were feeling this way.
But
now you got proof.
Yeah, now we got proof.
He didn't like it. He was upset.
He was. What is amazing, though, throughout all of this turmoil and Stephen feeling so upset, he actually starts to realize that he has more rights than he thought previously. And so he recorded a conversation he had with Kathleen because Kathleen was trying to take her daughter to Florida against Stephen's wishes.
And we know you ain't allowed if there's not consent on both sides.
Exactly. Otherwise, it's what, Becky?
Abduction.
Exactly.
Across state lines.
We know it. So eventually, Kathleen tells Stephen that her and her parents were planning on moving to Florida.
Oh, not just visiting. They're moving.
They're moving.
Ooh.
Yes, exactly. They're moving. And when Stephen was informed of this, he went straight to his lawyer. However, in a kind of shocking turn of events, his lawyer and Stephen actually worked with Kathleen and her parents to make alternative arrangements.
Alternative arrangements?
Yes.
What you mean?
What you mean, girl?
What you mean?
Give me the laydown.
Yeah.
Okay, so Stephen was actually going to move to Florida alongside them.
No.
Yes.
Oh, that's probably his worst fucking nightmare.
Oh, yeah. I could imagine. Like, you're moving literally to a different state.
With the people you don't like.
Yeah, you're going to be away from everyone. You'll have to find a new job.
A new place to live.
Exactly. So we're pointing out that there's going to be some complications for Stephen in order to do this. So some stipulations were made on this move. And those stipulations were that Kathleen and her parents had to get Stephen an apartment and that he would only have to pay $600 a month because the Dorsetts had to cover the rest of the cost.
For his inconvenience of moving.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Because
nice
he has no
him.
job, right? No job. So, I mean, paying full rent while also trying to find a job would be a challenge. So, because he is choosing to kind of uproot his life, the Dorsetts have to
accommodate
him.
Because otherwise they wouldn't be allowed, or at least Kathleen wouldn't be allowed to move there.
Exactly.
With Elizabeth, so
he's doing them a huge favor.
Mm-hmm.
However, the kind of shitty thing about this arrangement was that he would be living close to the Dorsetts.
Close quarters again.
Yes. And as we mentioned earlier, they're going to have to give him this financial support to kind of help him until he's able to find this job.
Right.
So although Stephen thought that things were looking up and he was pretty hopeful for this move and thought that it would make his life better, a lot of his friends were really worried because they didn't trust Kathleen as far as they could throw her, and they definitely didn't trust her family either.
That's a lot to be said when your friends are like, we don't trust the girl.
Yeah, exactly. However, this agreement did not change the dynamic between Stephen and Kathleen.
Really?
Yeah, it actually kind of revved it up more. Kathleen was pissed because she wanted things her way. Like, she really wanted to move to Florida without him and have Elizabeth all to herself. So she became really vicious.
Oh my God, this woman has zero compromise to her.
I know. She wants things her way or nothing at all.
Yeah. Damn.
And so she gets so vicious to the point where Stephen stops answering his phone just so that he could save the voicemails that she was leaving him to prove how terrible and controlling and manipulative she truly was.
What? I would be so curious to know what Kathleen is thinking in these moments because it sounds so messed up and so wrong.
It just sounds dumb too. I have to say, like, you're in a custody battle and you're going to call the father of your child and leave nasty voicemails. Like,
why would you do that?
It's just, it opens up room for the judge to completely side with Stephen. And when you are valuing winning a custody battle so much, it just seems dumb to even leave room for that speculation as to how you're treating him. You know what I mean? Just don't send the messages.
Yeah, you would think you'd be on your best behavior.
But no, she's on her worst.
She's like, I don't give a fuck about anything. I do what I want. I do what I say.
I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. Yeah, exactly. I'm Kathleen. I do what I want. But it's dumb.
I'm Kathleen. I do what I want.
I'm Kathleen. I do what I want.
I'm Kathleen. I do what I want.
I'm Kathleen. I do what I want. Yeah, that's our little metal
version of Kathleen does what she wants.
Yeah.
Little witch.
Little witch. Okay, so around the same time, the detectives actually get word back from the bank that those two initial charges that they thought had been posted the date of Stephen's disappearance were actually posted to his account that day, but they were actually transactions from previous days prior and were just posted that day. And investigators were able to corroborate that these transactions were from previous days with security cameras.
Oh my gosh.
Therefore, the investigators realized that the last person to see Stephen alive was Kathleen Dorsett.
Yes,
when he dropped off their daughter that morning.
My, how the tables have turned, Kathleen.
That's right, you witch.
You witch.
And in addition, the investigators received the autopsy report, and it says that the cause of death was blunt force trauma. And it was official. His death was labeled a homicide, officially. So it wasn't just that they were investigating it as a homicide. Now they know that he died by murder. And so
by murder.
And with all these little tidbits coming together, they realize that they need to go back and speak with Kathleen again. So
they got some questions.
Yeah, they need some answers, in fact. So they make their way to her home, and detectives inform Kathleen of Stephen's manner of death, telling her that it was blunt force trauma and strangulation that killed him.
Oh my.
And they also just slipped it in there that we know this is now a homicide, and there's more to this than just, Stephen's missing.
Right.
And as they're informing her of this, the only thing she says to them was, how am I supposed to respond to that?
She actually said that?
Yeah. Like maybe with some sadness or empathy, perhaps some tears, darling.
There's many ways that you could respond knowing your ex-husband, the father of your child, is dead.
By murder.
Like there has to be some emotion.
Like you could even just do a,
oh dear Lord, my ex, he's dead. And no, I didn't do it.
But seriously, what? Obviously, it's a rhetorical question, but girl, anything besides that.
Yeah, anything.
I feel like she's thinking in her head, how do I not say it was me? How do I not say it was me? How do I not say it was me?
She literally asks the investigator, how am I supposed to respond to that? Please tell me.
I'm confused. I don't want to implicate myself.
Can you tell me?
Please.
What would be normal?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what it really comes across like,
Me
right?
too. Yeah.
Yeah. So while one detective is talking to Kathleen, the other is surveying the neighbors. And one of the neighbors tells them something really eerie.
Ooh.
Now, they say that on the morning of August 16th, the day that Stephen goes missing, her and her husband had been awoken to screaming. So they look out their window and they see that Kathleen is in her backyard. So, like good neighbors, they open their window and they ask her if everything is okay. And I kid you not, Becky, Kathleen literally says to them, close your window.
Really?
Yeah, really. I could be making some stuff up with the tone there.
Of course.
She could have said, close your window.
But that
Please
sounds
close
weird.
Your window. It more sounds like, close your window, bitch. Sorry. But right? No?
Yeah.
It's like, what
well, is there
fuck?
really a nice way to just be like, close your window?
Mind your damn motherfucking business, bitch.
Shut your window.
You 2 + 2 not knowing little bitch.
Shut your window.
The Kevin Hart scene?
Yes,
Where his
my
mom
God,
gives
Bev.
him permission to go tell off his teacher, and he just goes fucking wild. Mind your damn motherfucking business, bitch.
You embraced him so hard.
I know. I embodied Kevin Hart for show.
Yeah, you little mini Kevin Hart.
Literally.
Yeah.
I'm a little mini cat. A little mini Kevin. Hey?
So good.
I know.
Oh my God.
I'm impressed with myself.
You did wonderful.
So later that day, Kathleen had told the same neighbor that her dog had had a seizure. And the neighbors told detectives that at that point, they had a lot of suspicion about the events of that morning. And the police then asked Kathleen if they could search her property, and she agreed.
Really?
Yeah, she agreed to have the search of the property, and I can only assume that she had no, she didn't want to seem guilty or something.
Yeah,
or,
go ahead, check my property. I got nothing to hide.
Yeah, we see a lot of criminals. Even though we don't know that Kathleen didn't, we're just speculating that she probably did at this point. But a lot of criminals like agree to searches. Like, remember the hay bale dungeon?
Yeah, he agreed to it.
Even though he's guilty as hell. There was a fucking hay bale dungeon in his fucking farm.
Yeah. It's like they're trying to prove a point in hopes that the detectives will just be like, okay.
Shitty at their job.
Shitty at their job
or not notice anything.
Yeah, or they won't notice it and they'll just leave. They'll like kind of take their word for it.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I'm thinking that is happening here.
Yeah.
So unfortunately for her, detectives bring out all the bells and whistles, and they are treating this as a crime scene. And while waiting for the crime scene unit to get there, detectives were they're hanging out with Kathleen, and she tells them about her gardening efforts.
Oh.
And tells them that all the mulch in the garden had just been replaced for the open house. Now, something about this sat really weird with the detectives. And so, of course, one of the first places that they looked was the garden.
Yeah, no kidding. New mulch, first place I'm going to look.
Yeah, like a recent change to your home after some screams were heard and a person has been found dead in a car. That is your ex-husband. Like, sketchy shit right there.
Yeah, it's like any remodeling or landscaping.
We're going to look into that.
Yeah,
like
red flag.
Red flag. So the investigator puts on a rubber glove and he just puts his hand into the mulch. And when he pulled his hand back out, it was covered in blood. And
oh my God.
I know that is fucking eerie and creepy and gross and just like not what you would fucking expect to be covered in after putting your hand in fucking mulch.
Yeah, and like how lucky for the detectives finding like the
blood.
spot.
The spot.
The spot.
So they test this glove full of human blood and it tests positive for human DNA.
Of course it does.
And because of this, Kathleen was brought down to the station for questioning.
Mm-hmm.
However, she refuses to speak with the investigators at this point.
Oh, there it is.
So, of course, after she refuses to speak and invokes her Miranda rights, the investigators have to let her go. Because the investigators need to kind of get their ducks in a row in order to make a formal arrest.
Yeah, they don't want to risk anything.
Yeah. And it didn't really take long because 2 days later, they make their way back to Kathleen's home, knock on the door, and immediately arrest her. She was taken into police custody right then and there.
Damn straight.
What is another interesting tidbit of information here is that all the investigators noticed that when they arrested Kathleen, her father was extremely distraught. And what made this realization even more confusing was what happened the following morning. And what happened was that Thomas Dorsett, Kathleen's father, drove his car to his attorney's office and sat there. When his attorney finally got there, he pulled up beside Thomas and looked inside his car and noticed that Thomas had a tube attached to a refrigerant canister that was inside of his mouth. And at that point, he was completely unconscious and had to be rushed to the hospital and was in a coma.
Oh my God, was he trying to commit suicide?
Well, it really seems that way, right?
Totally.
And of course, this behavior seems a little fishy to the detectives because they didn't believe that Thomas would possibly attempt to kill himself just because he was upset with what his daughter had done.
That does seem weird and like too exaggerated of an action.
100%.
Wow.
Yeah, you'd probably want to fight for your daughter, right? She's been arrested, but no, he goes the alternative route and tries to end his life.
Interesting.
Yeah, so because of this, the investigators start to look at things from a little bit of a different perspective. And they kind of think to themselves, how could Kathleen have manually killed Stephen with blunt force trauma and strangulation? Did she have assistance? And they're thinking, was it Thomas, perhaps?
Right.
So shortly after they get this phone call informing them that Thomas has tried to end his life, they get another phone call from a restaurant in Long Branch, New Jersey, and the restaurant thought that they had some interesting evidence from the morning of August 16th, which is
the day he went missing.
exactly. And they have a video to show detectives.
Oh my gosh.
And what was in this video was that 2 vehicles pull into the parking lot of the restaurant, one after another, and immediately the detectives realize that one of the cars that pulls in is Evelyn Moore's car. So the car Stephen was driving, but Thomas was driving it. Following this car was Kathleen's car, driven by none other than
Kathleen.
Exactly.
Oh,
and
God.
about an hour later, they see a white van pull into the back of the parking lot near the dumpsters, and they're able to match the van to none other than Thomas.
Oh my God, Bev. He's
Yes.
all over the place.
He's all over the place. And in fact, they actually see him get out of the van, and he's seen wearing protective gloves and is disposing of a garbage can filled with a bunch of stuff. And so, of
Okay.
course, they're able to go check this out. And what they find is that he's disposing of a rope and a 4x4 and a tarp.
Oh my God, Bev. That is like a murder, kill, cover-up kit.
100%. Or like a murder kit. Like, we know he died of blunt force, 4x4. We know he died of strangulation. So there's the rope. And the tarp, well, we can only assume and speculate what that could have been used for. So detectives,
Moving the body.
well, yeah, exactly. Like,
Ah.
pretty obvious. But
Yeah.
yeah, like that's what your mind goes to immediately, and mine too. So detectives at that point knew what they needed to do. And when Thomas woke up from his coma, he was arrested and taken to jail. So detectives' theory is that they believe that the morning Stephen was dropping off his daughter, Kathleen got him to go up the driveway to get some tools. And on his way back, Thomas hit him in the face with a 4x4. He was bleeding all over the driveway and in the bushes.
Oh my God. So Tom was waiting for him.
Yeah, lying in wait
Ugh.
for him. And then once he's incapacitated, he strangles him. So this is the
Jeez.
detective's theory. Furthermore, investigators thought that at the time, the reason for Stephen's death was solely based on Elizabeth and the fact that Kathleen did not want Stephen in the picture.
Right. So that was her motive.
Well, exactly. Both of their motives.
Mm-hmm.
So we now have Kathleen and Thomas who have been arrested for murder. And because of these circumstances, the courts decided that Evelyn Moore was to be the guardian for baby Elizabeth.
Oh my God. Kathleen must have been livid.
Yeah, exactly. And in addition, the courts believed that Leslie, Kathleen's mom, was not fit to take care of the baby, which is just a crazy concept to really think about because Kathleen was killing Stephen. Her and her father were killing him because they thought that he wasn't really fit to be a father. You know, they didn't trust him. But then we have those same people, murderers, 2 of them, and the next one was deemed unfit through the court of law. Like, interesting that they're actually probably the ones that were not to be trusted. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, for sure. Like, my, how these tables have turned.
Oh, exactly. So just a little bit interesting how that all went down. Now, while waiting trial, Kathleen actually has a really intriguing conversation with her mom through the jail phone. And she asked her mom, how much money can you get? Apparently, another inmate needed a lot of cash. And after that, the mother and daughter met in person at the jail. A second phone call was recorded, and Kathleen was telling her mother that what they discussed at their visit was now, like, the plan was in motion, and that she needed to do her part. All she had to do was write the word natural and diabetic, and that was it. And that it was the original amount that they discussed, $1,000, and that she had to seal it in an envelope, and that someone she didn't know would meet her there. And exactly who was meeting Leslie there? was a hitman hired to kill Evelyn Moore.
Oh my.
The hitman was supposed to meet Leslie at the Target, and she was supposed to give him a photo, the address, and money. Leslie is seen on security camera meeting this so-called hitman named Sammy. They wanted this death to look natural, so they told the hitman she was diabetic, and so some type of poisoning would be ideal so as to not draw attention.
Oh my God. They are conniving little witches, Bev.
I know. However, the problem with this interaction is that Leslie actually forgets that she even needs to bring a photo
Oh, that's
of
not
Evelyn.
helpful.
So she's missing a third of the information.
Genius.
Yeah. So Kathleen and Leslie rendezvous on a jail phone call after this fudge up of Leslie's. And it's pretty heated because Kathleen is so angry that she didn't bring the photo. So now Leslie has to go and mail the photo of Evelyn to the hitman, which is like totally leaving a trace. I'm just saying.
It is.
What
It's
the
so
fuck?
inefficient. Oh
Like,
my God.
Kind of crazy. They're going to no ends to murder Steven's mom. Like,
What'd she ever do to you?
right? Like this is getting to the point of ridiculousness.
Yeah.
So joke's on them, because Hitman Sammy was actually an undercover officer for the county.
Yes, he was.
Apparently, Kathleen's cellmate knew that Kathleen wanted to put a hit on Evelyn Moore and contacted detectives. She told detectives that she was so angry that Evelyn got custody of Elizabeth that she was going to have her killed. Now, poor Leslie, who got roped into this, was actually arrested because the photograph that was in the envelope that was supposed to be mailed to the hitman was found by detectives in her vehicle.
Oh, so she was like pulled over before she even made it to the mailbox.
Yeah, and it was found because obviously the hitman was an undercover police officer.
Yeah, they knew what she was up to.
Exactly. So now Kathleen is just racking up the charges. She's already been charged with murder, and now she's charged with attempted murder. And eventually Kathleen Dorsett confesses to what happened. She told the detectives everything, and in 2013, Kathleen pled guilty to first-degree murder as well as attempted murder, and she receives 58 years in prison.
Wow.
She will not be eligible for parole until 2057. And at that time, she'll be 83 years old. On top of that, the New Jersey Department of Education has stripped Kathleen of her teaching certificates. Thomas Dorsett pled guilty to first-degree murder as well as arson for hire, and he received 45 years in prison, and he is not eligible for parole until 2040. Leslie Dorsett pled guilty to second-degree conspiracy to commit murder. And she initially received 7 years in prison, but she only served about half. And surprise, surprise, Rebecca, there's actually a fourth man involved in all of this.
A fourth man?
A fourth man
Oh my
whose
God.
name was Anthony Morris. He was charged with arson and desecration of human remains. Now, apparently Thomas had paid Anthony $3,000 to set fire to Evelyn Moore's vehicle.
And oh my God.
Anthony also pled guilty to conspiracy to distribute and desecrate human remains, and he was sentenced to less than 7 years.
Poor guy just getting wrapped up into this psycho family.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Poor guy.
I know. It's a crappy family. They're all freaking criminals at
Right?
this point.
But also, your mistake, if someone asked me to burn a body in
no
a car,
way. My answer is no.
No, even if they didn't tell me there was a body in the car, I would check first and call the cops if I found that. Like, I would do my due diligence because I ain't getting framed for nothing.
No kidding. Like, you have to know if someone's asking you to light their car up in flames.
Nothing
like,
good has come from that.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's just sketchy. To this day, Thomas Dorsett insists that this murder was never planned and that it was just a fight that virtually ended in tragedy, and that himself and his daughter Kathleen only took their plea deal so that Leslie did not spend a long time in prison.
This is like a fucking cop-out.
Yeah, like he basically just said, we pled guilty so that we could protect Leslie, who got caught up in all of this.
But we didn't actually plan this murder.
Yeah, which I think is absolutely crap. Like,
they
the motive
planned
is
it.
there. What the fuck? You just ended in a fight? Like, did Steven attack you? Like, is that what you're trying to say? Like, it's just bogus.
Yeah.
Like,
Bunch
you
of
literally
bull crap.
hired someone to set this on fire. Like, come on, dude.
You're both caught on security camera, driving the cars.
Yeah.
Hiding the evidence. Like, no fucking way.
Yeah.
Liar.
Like, whatever makes you sleep at night, pal.
Yep.
So Evelyn Moore, Stephen's mother, was granted full custody of granddaughter Elizabeth until 2021, when she passed away at the age of 86. And to this day, Elizabeth continues to live with other members of the Moore family. And that's all I have for you, Becky.
That's all?
That's it. That's all.
Wow. Thanks for sharing, Bev.
Thanks for listening.